Living as a nomad in exile in Europe and North Africa, Iranian-born artist Firouz FarmanFarmaian actively engaged in breeding dialogues between past and future, East and West, archaic craft and innovative technology. Thought his social engaged practice, he focuses on the theme of history, identity, and immaterial substance of memory and the post-tribal. Thank you so much for interview, Firouz FarmanFarmaian.
In the interview?
Sure, I'll be very happy to.
Okay. Tell me about you, your job, and your life.
Well, I think that there is a misinterpretation on the idea of calling what I produce a job. I think that globally it is interesting for people to study art and to get involved in the process of creation. But I believe that it is a very complicated process where there's a few people that are finally called in to do it full time, and so I have a very radical point of view on how I develop my creative process. I believe that there has been a crisis in that respect. I think since the 20th century, the development of industrial-related concepts such as pop art has overtaken the real substance of what I think should be the mission of an artist, and that mission has defined most of my projects and the way I have taken the way forward in my life, which makes me a very not alternative but independent thinking intellectual and creator. And I have taken paths that are entirely personal my whole life. I obviously have a lot of respect for institutions and for commercial galleries, but I worked in different fields. I did short movies, experimental avant-garde films, documentaries, social and musical documentaries in Africa. Then I fell into a whole segment of my creative life where I was into music, where I have a rock and roll band, and we toured for about 8 years, and all of this mixed to my approach on visual arts, and then I entered the idea of contemporary art that I think is a very nice circus, because it actually covers the beauty of contemporary art is that it covers all types of development inside its own tent. You can mix music, visual arts, video, performance, and not be relegated to a place where you have to work within a format, as it is the case today, sadly, in music and in film. And I think that has exponentially lowered the level of quality. So I think that freedom of expression in multi-directional research is what defines what I do and the way I've conducted my life.
How would you describe your last project, Gate of Turan?
I have been striving to undertake the creation of the blueprint of a structure that could encapsulate what I have in mind, all of the elements I have in mind, and I believe that you should also include positive and virtuous cycles to your creative development, such as positive impact in the world, may it be ecologically, may it be spiritually, very importantly spiritually, may it be on a social level, and if you can empower segments of activities, and especially in my case, I'm very much into have this connection with craftswomen of the nomadic and the old archaic tradition. I have connected with in North Africa and recently in Central Asia. I think that the impact of a collaborative approach to contemporary art, mixing what I call a vision, a transformative vision of the past into contemporary practice, is very, very interesting. I have been approached by a lot of people that say that what I actually sometimes do is that I take dusty ideas and make them feel like they're contemporary. Well, I believe that what we call dusty sometimes is a lack of understanding that we always stand on the shoulders of the past, and the constructs and the cosmogonies and the beliefs and the layerings of beliefs and culture that make one identity are actually multiple, and that multiplicity of things that have been listed by philosophers such as Édouard Glissant, which I love, which is a Creole philosopher of the Académie Française that passed not long ago, defined that tomorrow's philosophies have to be multiculturally oriented as we are reaching a point, post-globalized 21st century world, where everyone is actually connected. And I think there must be a return to spirituality. So to understand what I mean by the return of spirituality into contemporary art, I always take the cue on Klein that was defining his conceptual approach to Zen. I think that, the frontiers, the borders are very thin between conceptual art and the spiritual approach. So I think that into the 21st century, in this moment of importance where we have to reconnect to the elements, reconnect to maybe elements that we have forgotten since the Industrial Revolution, to try to assess what the future of humanity is going to be, I think that art has that job. And Gates of Turan, after having worked with the Berbers in the Northern African sphere, and during the pandemic, I put my attention to the fact that I couldn't go back to my own personal culture, being an exiled Iranian of the FarmanFarmaian tribe, of the Qajar tribe more extensively. We cannot go back home. But we have Turkic origins, meaning our tribe came into Persia following the Mongol conquests and rose to prominence through the centuries. But I put my attention to the tribal connections that my family, my tribe, my clan had with Central Asia. And I got into a mythical conversation. I always call it Felinian. I kind of put imagination to the service of information. And that trail led me to pass what in Iran we call the Gates of Turan, which are the northern entrance to the steppes, as it was defined in the Shahnameh of Ferdowsi, as long time ago, 3,000 years ago, as the Indo-European conquests came into Asia. There was subdivision of the Saka tribes, which were actually the sites. And on the northern part of Iran and in the middle of Central Asia, namely Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan, the same tribe warred each other for centuries. And these wars were settled at the end. And the name Iran and Turan was created, if we trust the Shahnameh. That's obviously a poetic book dating of the 11th century. At that point, so I linked to that, and Kyrgyzstan was a natural evolution for me, because they also have that same epic in their culture called the Manas, which also was created in the 11th century, but with oral tradition, as it's a nomadic culture with shamanistic passage of rites through generations, and that was fabulous. And Kyrgyzstan, being a mountainous volume, being quite protected by the endeavors of the modern world, obviously apart from the Soviet incursion of the 20th century. They still have a very pristine nomadic culture set up in the Tian Shan range. And I could actually tap into something very powerful, very powerful. There was layers of culture.
I understand. What it has achieved, and where it is leading you today?
Well, I must obviously say that the project Gates of Turan was presented to the 59th Biennale de Venezia last year. and that I was nominated to be the cultural ambassador by the Ministry of Culture, and that we, for a year and a half, apart from the funding part, we, during 9 months, we represented Kyrgyzstan in Venice with a beautiful pavilion and with the Gates of Turan exhibition that comprised nomadic felt banners inspired by the semiologies and the semiotics and the cosmogonies of nomadic Kyrgyz and more largely Central Asian culture. And I worked with the women weavers of the Altin Kolu Craftswomen's Association, that's an NGO. And thanks to the funding of foundations such as the Flora Family Foundation and other private foundations, and very precisely the SG Global Corporation in Dubai, that was our main partner, were able to produce and have these funds reach people that needed it in those mountains. So we finally were very happy with the result. It ended in December, and the future has been informed by this action, by that dynamic. And I've been trying for the last 6 months to get a grasp on how to rationalize, to bring this into not only a commercial endeavor. I have not accepted any offers coming for commercial galleries in the last 6 months because I don't want this to turn into a unit per unit sales production at all. So I've basically put the whole installation aside, and I've been giving it a secondary thought on a philosophical level. And to do that, I've entered a curator that's also a distant cousin of mine, Mr. Vali Mahlouji, that consults the V&A and is the, the curator of incredible shows related to pre-revolution Iran at the Musée des Arts Modernes in Paris. We're very close. So we started a conversation to try to define what I mean by the post-tribal. What is this idea where we can do contemporary art working with an idea where we can blur the frontiers of craft, design, contemporary art, and tradition, and bring it into the debate that's raging right now about the position of the colonialist power in front of the rise of the New World. Okay, so we're actually at the center of this East-West debate, and we're trying to conceptualize it. So to do that, we obviously have the project to present it to a couple of museums around the world. And we are working hard right now on another round of fundraising, to be true to you, to bring the project, hopefully by the end of the year, to a great art fair, which I won't name right now, and to do a private presentation to those institutions within the frame of this post-tribal idea. So that's where we are. So we're working on that. But on the other hand, what's interesting is that it has created very, very surprising new conversations, such as with a northern Italian company called Amir Art Collection, and that has signed with me a collaborative idea to develop textile and a collection of rugs from my post-tribal designs, and we've called it Contemporary Nomads Collection, and it's a transformative, derived idea where we can work within the frame of rug making, but with a creative idea that will link us to those different craftswomen I told you. So we're going to be working, right now we're working with the same Kyrgyz craftswoman in the mountains. So I'm very happy to say that the project has brought contracts to Kyrgyz craftswomen through that action, with Berber craftswomen, and more precisely in Tibet and Nepal. And we want to work with Iran right now, but due to the political situation and the border lockdowns, it's been very complicated. So that's what the project has created as a dynamic. And on the other hand, well, here in Athens, as I'm based now, I'm super happy and to be here. It's been a lifelong dream to connect to the intemporal aura of Greek culture. And I have very positively started developing a different project on site in my workshop in Kalimar Maromats. That's just on the southern slope of the Ardito Hill. And I've been visiting some temples, and lately the temple of Tike, which is the goddess of fortune. And I'm working on a series of monumental paintings inspired by the goddess Tike at this exact moment.
Your works deals with socio-political and culture use. Can you discuss a specific piece or series that you feel represent these themes the most?
Thank you for asking. So what your question is you are wondering which are my works that are mostly angled towards socio-political impact. Well, there are sub-segments on which I work that are related to Iran, obviously. And namely, there was one work that was called Revolution, that is called Revolution, that I have here, by the way. And that was shown quite in a controversial way in Tehran before the uprisings, on the occasion of the 40th birthday of the revolution, and in February 2020. And that was a panel that had created from based, because I work a lot on some of my exploration on archival content. I recuperate imagery. Namely, at first I used to recuperate imagery, less now, but linked to archival substance that was developed during the late 19th, start of 20th century, related to early Iran and the Qajar era. That was another segment on Qajar research that I called my paint over. So as a paint over, I continued on that direction, and I worked on a 4-meter-44 piece where I found a Newsweek from January 1979, where there was a picture, a completely old picture, that had been taken by the photographer Abbas, that is a Magnum photographer, prized Magnum photographer, one of the best revolution and war photographers of the 1980s, okay, and Irani. And he basically had the rights to that picture still. So we had common friends. I went to see him in Paris, and he gave me the rights to transform it into an artwork. And he died a week later. It's a crazy story. And I dedicated the work to him, obviously. And I developed that picture. And the picture is, very simply put, a moment where the people are getting shot by the army in the street, and everybody's jumping to the street. And it's a very powerful image. Very, 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 very large artwork, 4-meter-44, and grainy. I kept all that information raw, and I worked on the grain to give this idea. So people obviously on the socio-political impact ask me, on which side are you on? Because obviously the picture being taken during the 1979 uprising that led to the Iranian Revolution did confront the troops of the Shah to the people. So my answer has always been that I am in a way apolitical. I am just defining situations that have informed my life. So deterministically, this event really happened, and it did lead to the fact that I lost my country, and it has defined the architecture of my life. So what I can actually say about socio-political impact on my work is sometimes a second level, meaning I don't go in as a political artist. I just define my own experience of the world on topics that sometimes have impact on the socio-political level, if I may say. Obviously, with Gates of Turan, we arrive at a higher, more positive and constructive vision of the socio-political, because I had to develop a whole role of diplomacy with the ministries of a nation, and with the ministers of culture and of foreign affairs, to be nominated as a cultural ambassador and have a political role at the end because I had that mission that was put upon me. So I did have a political responsibility when I was developing the Gates of Turan, and it was a learning curve to know how to manage the expectations of a nation at the same time as the radical vision of your own production as an artist. So that was very interesting. But we had, as I said earlier, integrated the idea that we wanted to highlight the work of women in the Tian Shan range, knowing that during the Soviet era, Kyrgyzstan was the wool maker of all the Soviet Union, and they had maybe 40 million sheep up in their mountains. And even though the system was Kolkhozian and egalitarian, they were quite happy with that system because they had a market. When the wall fell, basically what happened is that the competitive globalized market broke that chain, and these women lost kind of their work because they didn't have a market. The competitive market with China or Bangladesh or other nations was way too hard for them to compete. And today, I think that you have a couple of million sheep left in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan that actually put into perspective that the inheritance of that tradition is endangered. So what we did is that we went there and we highlighted the tradition. We filmed it through a documentary that's actually called The Road to Venice. That's going to be out. I can't tell you which platform yet, but on one of those platforms, and Amazon, Apple, or Netflix. It's in the development. But to highlight the work of these women, and that was a big success when you get the realization that our PR company in London, Midas, gave us a feedback that 20 million people were informed of this action in Venice. Well, suddenly you have 20 million people more that know about, Kyrgyz crafts. Right now, Uzbek Suzani is enormous in the world. Everybody has their Suzani at home now. Well, who knows? Maybe, the Kyrgyz Shirdak and their cousin Oymos, the Oymos, I'm getting it wrong. The Oymos are the semiotic symbols that are part of the language of the nomadic vocabulary. And the Saima, which is the silk embroidery technique of Kyrgyzstan, their cousins, the Saima, will maybe have the same fate as the Uzbek Suzanis with the help of God. So, and that will dynamize not only positively, politically, a segment of traditional and endangered crafts and jobs, obviously, but also maybe help those that are discovering it realize that these avenues, these pre-industrial avenues, this connection to the earth, this connection to the elements, this integrated spirituality is something we should maybe sit down and look closer to, and that's my point of view as an artist. I think that cynicism has had its time, and I think it's time to regroup and to maybe think about the idea of contemporary art as a vessel for bettering things.
Tell me your future dreams.
Well, as dreams are involved, I believe that that projects that come towards me logically come quite organically, and I don't have taken decisions towards what the next big step will be. Obviously, as you asked me earlier, I'm still working to solidify what happened last year in Venice, and to also put this whole post-tribal dynamic up on rails for it to really be a solid project for other artists to follow. I'm not talking about starting a movement. I'm just thinking about starting a school of thought, and or at least a shared vision with other platforms of thinking. So that's what I'm trying to create. I don't want to too fast go on to something else. Now, obviously, I'm in Greece now, and my dream at this exact moment is to go to Hydra and to open my workshop there. And I'm working on that right now, possibly showing some of my works there this summer.
And tell me a message for the Greeks and the Greek people. Your message.
Yes. First, I would say Kalimera. Efkaristo Poli, to have me in your country. I am proud to be here. I am touched by so much kindness and positive exchange. This morning in 1 hour, I'm meeting with the supervisor of the restorations of the Acropolis that wants to meet me to discuss ideas. It's been fantastic. We really understand each other. I think about on the topic of different subjects, notably on the fact that we have in common this love of the past, and we believe that that it is very possible that with the right conduit of transformative ideas, we can link the past to the future, and to be able to thread great things together. So I'm at the start of this journey. I arrived in Greece only a year ago, but I believe that we're going to be here for a long while. Even though I am a nomadic soul, my tent is now in Yunnan, as we say in Persia, and I think that our cultures have been interlocked for 2,500 years, not for nothing, and so that's my message to the Greek culture. I say to all those that wish to get it, to do it, also to come to Greece, that the idea is to obviously try to understand this incredible aura that Greek culture has, and to connect to it in multiple ways, may it be on a historical level or on a contemporary level.